Good evening, everyone that's joining in today. My name is Anissa Barton-Thompson, and I'm the social media specialist for the College of Extended International Education here at California State University, Dominguez Hills. I'll be your host for this presentation, so welcome. What we're going to do is make sure that this webinar is being recorded so that you can enjoy it later on. It'll be available on our website and our social media resources shortly after today's session. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Feel free to download the CSUDH Medical Insurance Billing Certificate Program Information Kit for details about the program and additional resources covered in today's webinar. The address is bit.ly/CSU-DH-NBMB-InfoKit. Now, we've provided a link in the chat for those who are participating live, and it will also be available via a follow-up email to attendees as well as on our website. Before we jump in, I'd like to review the Zoom controls. This session is being recorded and presented in a webinar format, so you don't need to worry about connecting your microphone or your camera. However, we do want your participation, so help us address your needs. Let's use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen if you are joining us via the Zoom desktop app or the web browser, or in the top right of your screen if you're on a mobile device. Please ask your questions in that Q&A panel rather than in the chat panel. Once you click the Q&A button, a dialog box is going to open up, allowing you to type your question in. And in that chat panel, we'll be providing helpful links and other information. Our marketing staff members, Stephanie Bukian and Keith Otterberg, as well as our program director, Elizabeth Legg, are standing by to assist. We'll also be answering questions at the end of the session, although often you may find that the questions you have been answered during the program overviews. So with that being said, let's take a quick look at the agenda for the certificate program information session. And we kind of use this abbreviation NBMB, so you may hear that throughout the session. We'll begin by meeting our certificate faculty, introduce you to the program via an overview of benefits, expectations, and course details. Then we'll go over the registration and login information and address your questions in our Q&A session. We'll also have a survey at the end of the webinar, and we'll love to have your feedback so we can make sure that we have our future events even better than before. And if you're on social media, please use the hashtag CSUDH Extended Ed or tag our social at CSUDH Extended Ed. So the program instructors, Victoria Morgan and Tamara Royston, are experts in their respective areas and each bring a wealth of information to the classroom. And now I'll turn it over to our instructors of the Medical Insurance Billing Certificate Program. So welcome, ladies. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. Just a little bit about myself. I'm Victoria Morgan. I've been with the program for over 20 years. I have a master's degree in hospital administration from Cal State Northridge. I started out in Southern California at Northridge Hospital, which is now Dignity Health. And I am currently the Revenue Cycle Director of Projects for Tahoe or Truckee, up in Truckee, California at Tahoe Forest Hospital District. I've worked in small and large hospitals, as well as worked with physician practices from as few as 5 or 6 to several hundred. So I look forward to sharing experiences with you and answering your questions. Tamara?
Hi, yes, I'm Tamara Royston. I am been in the medical billing field and coding field healthcare overall for 25 years. I hold the HEMA credentials of RHIA and RHIT. I'm also a certified professional coder. I have an associate's degree in health information technology, a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership, and a master's degree in leadership as well. I've served in positions of director of HIM for Kaiser, Dignity Health, and Tahoe Forest Health Systems, and currently at UC Davis over the coding department. And I'm excited to speak with you today.
So we're going to start out this evening with a quick poll to kind of see where everybody thinks or what people think about what medical insurance billing is all about. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to vote on medical billing. What is it? You can vote for organization managing coding. It's a classification system. It's designed to collect lots of money, or it's all of the above.
We're seeing those answers roll in. Again, the question is, what is medical insurance billing? The choices for those who are watching the recording are organize, manage, and code health information data, use classification systems to code and categorize patient information, collect lots of money, or your final choice, all of the above. So we'll just wait just a second more to get those final votes in. Okay, and I'm sure that Victoria, you've got some interesting perspective on this answer for the question. I'm going to go ahead and roll with the end of the poll, and we'll share the results. Okay. And so the results are 35% believe that it is strictly organizing, managing, and coding health information data. 30% believe that it is use classification systems to code and categorize patient information. Nobody thinks it's to collect lots of money. And several, 52% said all of the above, that it's all three. So Victoria, why don't you give us a little bit of information regarding this?
So this was kind of one of those questions where there's not a right or wrong answer, but I will tell you that ideally, it kind of is all of the above. So the 52% of you that went that way, you're definitely kind of where we're heading. It is all about organizing and doing information management, coding and the like. It's also then using those codes in order to create claim forms. And the objective is to maximize the amount of payment that you're entitled to from the specific sources that you're trying to collect from, whether it's Medicare, commercial insurance. So I do jokingly say it is to collect lots of money, or at least the amount of money that you're entitled to. So when we talk about medical insurance billing, we are talking about a series of steps. We're talking about all the way from beginning of registration, when somebody realizes they need to seek healthcare, to figuring out how payment is going to be accomplished, whether it's from a third-party insurance company or whether it's someone who's going to be responsible on their own or there's other parties involved, all the way through the process. It is coding. It is knowing how to read and understand diagnostic codings. It is about knowing what procedure codes. It's putting together data on various boxes on claim forms, getting those claim forms to payers, and then lastly, making sure that we've collected from the payers. The patients have responsibility, getting their piece as well. And when we're all done, ideally being reimbursed for the maximum that we're entitled to. So one of the questions that we normally want to worry about is, what is it like in this industry? Why would you want to learn about medical billing and, as far as a career or a job? Well, a couple of things to keep in mind. We all know that we've got a lot of baby boomers out there that are reaching age 65 or older. That particular group of folks is going to be known for utilizing a lot of services. We tend to use a lot of services as we do age out. We do realize that we've just spent the last 2+ years under a pandemic. That has not waned as much as we'd like to see, and so we've still got that pending out there. There are still a lot of things going on, just the normal health type items that we're dealing with. We also have to recognize that things are changing in terms of the way we provide health care. Not to say that the normal traditional manner of getting a job is your only choice. It's one of those things where if you're creative and flexible, you're definitely probably going to find a decent job. So this is kind of from the Department of Labor statistics, showing you all occupations, showing you those occupations against medical insurance billing. You will see that medical insurance billing does have a higher percentage of growth than other industries. We have an aging population. We are doing a lot of things cloud-based. Telemedicine, telehealth has taken off gangbusters. We just had the president sign, or is about to sign potentially, some new legislation that talks about saving money for prescription drugs. So our governmental programs are definitely looking at keeping costs under control. There's a lot of practices out there. And again, I repeat that we still have the pandemic that we're dealing with. So what type of employers, when we're done with this program, might you be looking at? So it's not just about working for solo or group practices, although those are definitely position areas that you could work for, but it's the entire industry. The program that we're involved with basically helps to lay a foundation that allows you some flexibility. You're definitely going to have some baseline information that would even get you into different hospitals and health systems. Home health, that's a big industry as more and more folks try to stay at home when they're recuperating or when they're ill. I've already mentioned telemedicine or telehealth, real big industry right now, major growth in that area. Hospice for end of life, ancillary departments like radiology or lab or x-ray, physical therapy. So there's many, many, many areas that one could look at. So I'm going to turn it over to Tamara, who's now going to talk a little bit about our program courses.
Right. Our program is designed with 8 separate courses, multiple sessions per course. You can complete the program in as little as 6 to 8 months. A certificate will be awarded upon successful completion of all courses, and digital and print certificates will be available. So who should attend our course? Individuals wanting to learn about and enter this field, individuals new to healthcare who want additional skills to better understand the industry, individuals who have recently taken a medical office position and want to understand more about the issues, and individuals who are who just require a refresher course for those who have been working in the industry and want to advance in the industry. So we'll just turn it over to Vicki and talk a little bit about the course delivery.
So one of the things that this program has been real successful in doing is to complement individuals that are currently working in the field or in other professions. With that in mind, our courses are primarily Saturday with an occasional Sunday, depending on how the calendar is falling. Our class time is scheduled for 5 hours. That doesn't always mean 5 hours in front of Zoom. It could be a little bit less with some additional time for some case studies and possibly some homework. We do have several classes that have multiple class meetings. Courses are scheduled year-round, as Tamara just indicated. Takes about 6 to 8 months to finish. But if you don't start right at the very beginning, we do have some entry points that let you to start and then still get caught up and still finish in that 6 to 8 months. We are a program that really benefits from attendance and participation. The more interaction that we can have in those classes, the better it is. Opportunity to share and to kind of discuss real life situations. In the next few minutes, we're going to go through each of the classes, but for now, we'll just kind of go over an overview. Tamara? Sure.
So again, I spoke earlier about the 8 courses here. And so the course overview allows you to learn insurance and third-party billing. So that's our NBMB 111. Then you have 112, which is office and insurance problem solving. You have 113, which is regulatory requirements, HIPAA compliance and ethics. 114 covers inpatient and outpatient facility billing. 115 is medical terminology. 116 is ICD-10 coding. And you have 117 CPT Procedure Coding. And 118 medical insurance, computer billing, and applied billing techniques. 115 through 118 should be taken in order to maximize the learning experience. Okay, turn it back over to Vicki.
So our first class, the NBMB 111, is our insurance and third-party payer class, and it is the foundation of all things payers. It is our longest and most comprehensive course. It does have 5 class meetings. We cover all the basics of third-party payment. We talk about the big payers, the Medicare, the Medi-Cal, Blue Cross. We talk about workers' comp, military. We're focusing on the regulations, the rules. We're talking about what certain expectations are from these payers, and more importantly, how we stay compliant with their requirements up front, so that when we do in fact submit a claim for them, that we are able to maximize our reimbursement. Once we figure out how to create a claim, we then have to move on to doing collection and follow-up. And that brings us to our class 112, Office and Insurance Problem Solving. That is a 2-meeting course where we start from the very basics of how to do follow-up and collections with respect to the claims that we've submitted. We spend time focusing on regulations that govern our office activities, some of the laws that tell us what we can and cannot do. We spend a lot of time with case studies, looking at various indicators that determine whether our office is running successfully. We also will spend time talking about patient collections, because there are balances that our patients are now responsible for. Again, we work a lot with case studies. We use our textbook and our workbook for extra exercises, but this is very much a hands-on type course. When we talk about creating accurate claims, we also have to review the regulations and the important topics relating to privacy. And that leads us to course 113. 113 is our regulatory requirements, HIPAA compliance and ethics, HIPAA being the regulation that sets out the rules relative to privacy. We all know that there's a lot of concern out there for identity theft, cybersecurity. We touch on those topics and how they impact us as we move information back and forth between providers, doctors, payers, banks, and others that pay us. We talk a lot about how do we keep that data protected, how do we avoid breaches of information. We talk about the importance of when we audit, it'll keep people educated as to what we can and cannot do. The laws set out a whole lot of things relating to non-compliance or doing things wrong. We obviously are the stewards for patients protecting their privacy, so this is all about those regulations. The first 3 classes are very industry specific. They're not just about doctor's office. So all 3 of these courses very much applicable if you choose to be hired, not just in a doctor's office. With that in mind, our class 114 talks about how do we do the billing in a non-doctor's office setting. There is a different claim form that is used for the billing inside a hospital, or what we call outpatient billing. That's a claim form called the UB04. We talk about how does that form get utilized in surgery centers, in hospitals for inpatient, when you've got your head on a pillow in an organization, outpatient surgery, whether you are in a skilled nursing facility, some of the other freestanding entities that are out there. We will talk about that in class 114. So again, this class has now been the business side of the house. We're going to talk a little bit in the next classes about the clinical side. Tamara?
Okay, so medical terminology 115. Basically, in this course, you're going to learn about a basic medical terminology overview. So we're looking at prefixes, suffixes, and root words, combining forms. You have a review of the terminology by body system and a review by abbreviations. And so medical terminology primarily is just a language, and it pretty much is used to precisely describe the human body. So in this course, it helps you as a prerequisite when you go into your billing courses and your coding courses, and it provides the foundation that you need to understand what you're learning there. So within medical terminology, you're learning, again, the root words, the prefixes, the suffixes, procedures that are performed pertaining to the terminology, and it really helps align what you're learning for the rest of the term and the sessions here. So we'll turn it over to you, Vicki.
So once we have an understanding of a little bit of anatomy and physiology as we've pulled through our terminology coursework, we now are going to start taking that information and building on it with two different courses. Our class 116 is all about diagnosis. What was the reason for that particular person to come and have care? We're going to spend time with the coding book. We're going to talk about how the coding book is organized. You're not going to be a coder per se, but if you are a biller, you have to understand what the codes mean in order to be able to communicate with an insurance company about how you expect to get paid. The importance of making sure that the codes on the claim support the medical reasoning and the justification for the services. We're going to do a lot of exercises. This particular course only has 2 chapters that are covered out of your textbook, but we actually will spend 3 class meetings, meaning that there's an awful lot of time to practice. A lot of exercises in class and a lot of exercises at home in order for you to get real comfortable with how the coding books are put together. There's also going to be, at that point, after we get done with diagnosis, we're going to have to figure out how to do procedure billing. And with that, we move on to our next course, which is class 117, our CPT Procedure Coding, and CPT stands for Common Procedure Terminology. So what this is how we identify that you had a chest x-ray or that you had a lab test and what type of lab test you have. We have to be able to link the procedure that you had performed to the reason for you coming, hence the diagnostic codes and the CPT courses go hand in hand. Once again, this is a course that has 3 class meetings, and we spend a lot of time with practice problems. We go over each of the various chapters which are in the coding book to get you familiar with how it's organized and how you would find something in the event that you were trying to get your claim paid. We do, like I said, there's a lot of homework, and not a lot of homework, but a lot of practice problems that we're going to spend. Once we have all these industry basics covered and we have a general terminology, we need to pull all that material together. And we have class 118. So class 118 is our medical insurance billing computer and applied billing techniques class. This is a lecture class. It is a single class, but it does at this point take time to go through the box by boxes that are on the claim form to identify what's on that professional claim form, and this is for your doctor's offices. We're going to talk about the basic things that computer systems do and how they support all of our activities. We're going to talk about how we get claims from the office to the insurance companies without necessarily sending them all via snail mail. We talk about using electronic methods, which is what a clearinghouse helps us to do. We'll go through the regulations that talk about compliance and how to get the claim to be accurate so that when it's submitted, it gets paid on the first go around versus going back and forth because of it being incomplete. So we've covered a lot of information in the first 6 months, but the learning never stops. Some of the ways that we keep informed is being involved with networking. So we have a series of groups that we talk about. They all have a little bit different take on the industry. The Healthcare Financial Management Association, hfma.org is their link. They are administratively the kind of organization that manages and kind of controls that side of the business. We have Med Group Management Association, MGMA, another one for working in physician practices where there's more than 1 or 2 doctors involved. You've got the American Health Information Management. That's our AHIMA.org, folks. That's our medical records coding and all of the information management. We have Healthcare Business Management Association, HBMA, another billing type fundamental organization. And then we have the American Billing Association, again, AmericanBillingAssociates.com. All of these organizations, whether it's HFMA or AHIMA, they all are designed to help in your profession, help you find a place for networking, help you find a place to keep the learning going, because our industry is not one that just stops. Every quarter, every month, there are things that change. So with that, I'm going to let Tamara talk a bit more about the benefits of our certificate.
Great. So the benefits of our certificate. Students are given exposure to many aspects of the medical billing industry, such as coding, office operations, billing, collecting, and regulatory issues. Students are also given case studies and work examples to practice textbook theory. There's discussions and sharing of specific real-world examples, which help students to fully understand a very complicated industry. Program instructors can provide answers to student questions about jobs, resumes, and how to best secure employment and advance in the industry. This is an amazing medical insurance billing program. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to get back into the industry if you've already, left it and you're looking for a way to get back in, or you're just wanting to learn the basics and the fundamentals of what medical billing is and how you can apply that learning into a real world scenario. So the discussions that we share with our students, I think Vicki and myself come with a lot of experience that can help, guide your career with coding. And it's not just the book knowledge, but it's the expertise that we provide to can help you in your career. And that's we speak a lot about how we can provide answers to a lot of questions about jobs and your resumes and how to secure employment, but more so understanding many aspects of medical billing and coding is fundamental to your success in the career. So with that, I'll turn it over to Anissa.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you, Vicki. This was incredibly insightful information. So we've unpacked a lot, but we also want to make sure that students are aware of the processes for getting enrolled and getting into the program. We're going to come back to our instructors momentarily after our Q&A segment, for our Q&A segment. But first, let's talk about the course delivery and registration details. So almost all of the CSUDH extended education programs are being offered in an online format, which means that students are assigned online access through our campus's IT services. Each student will need login credentials to access the student portal, which is called My CSUDH. This portal includes our learning management system, where course content is distributed, Toro Mail, which is our Gmail-based student email system, and the Zoom web conferencing tool. These login credentials, which consist of your username, your email account, and your password, are issued through our registration office approximately 2 to 3 days after registration in your first course. So enrollment is available from our extended education registration office Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you have recently taken a course at CSUDH, you may register online using your My CSUDH account. There are no prerequisites for enrollment, and there is no admission process. We highly recommend that you register early to make sure that there's space in the course and to allow enough time for course information and online access to be created and distributed. Payment is due at the time of registration. Now, the federal WIOA, that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, provides funding through the California EDD, Employment Development Department, for qualifying students who are currently either unemployed or seeking career training. For more information, please email wioa@csudh.edu or visit our program website for more information. And if you need any additional financial assistance, please Google private student loan providers or connect with salliemay.com for student loan details. So again, we recommend that you register at least 1 week before the course begins. Once you've registered and received your login information, you'll be able to easily access the Toro student portal to connect with your class and check your Toro mail and personal emails frequently for special instructions and campus notifications. You'll also want to be sure to test your account access within the course learning management system and get comfortable with the layout of the class, such as where to find announcements, Zoom meeting schedules, discussions, and the like. And let us know via our academic technology services if you're having any difficulty connecting. Okay, so now we will get ready for our questions with our instructors. I'm going to ask both of our instructors to unmute. And we will take your questions. We see some of them are coming in now. So the first question that I want to ask is just a warm up. And that is, everybody always wants to know, how do I get into an industry like medical insurance billing if I don't have any prior experience in this? So I'm going to go ahead and stop and bring us up to the front. Make sure that we can see everyone. Okay. So Vicki, what is your take on that? If someone wants to get into the medical insurance billing industry and they don't have any experience, how is this program going to assist them?
So one of the things that what we normally encourage is that the courses themselves are going to allow you to speak to some level of knowledge, even though you've not actually worked in the field. Healthcare is one of those fields that uses what they call internships, where you may end up doing a little bit of volunteer work for a month, couple months, but it's the way of getting your foot in the door. I look also when you've got students, if you've had parallel experiences elsewhere, if you've been a customer service rep somewhere, have you worked with complaints? Have you done a lot of telephone work? So there's some parallel skills that other industries can help bring to the table. So I said at the very beginning of this evening, is sometimes being a little bit creative and thinking outside the box, but there is lots of there are lots of opportunities in this field simply because healthcare has not really shrunk like all other fields. I mean, the pandemic hit a lot of industries pretty hard, but healthcare, man, we were still booming. The bottom line is we were still taking care of people, and people are still out there to be taken care of.
Absolutely. Tamara, do you have any information that you'd like to share?
Yes, I agree. Once you've completed the course and you go on an internship or externship, that's when the opportunities typically open up. And even if you're volunteering, so an internship would allow you to volunteer the work to work at the facility, and with the skills that you learned on the job, usually that's an opportunity for you to start an entry-level role. So starting with the program, getting an internship or an externship on site, and working as a volunteer, and then working your way into a position is usually the best method
Absolutely.
when you have no experience.
Okay.
And along with Vicki and the parallel, work history.
Okay. Erica is joining us, and she asks, by taking this course and obtaining the certificate, is it usable to use out of state also?
So I'll go ahead and grab that one. We recognize that there are a lot of federal programs. So we definitely, when we talk about third-party insurances, spend a lot of time talking about things that are nationwide. About the only thing that's very state-specific would be like the Medi-Cal or Medicaid, as it's called in other programs, but there's an awful lot of similarities. So our certificate is not very focused to just California. I currently have facilities in Nevada and California and have worked all across the country. So a lot of those experience we can share what has worked or not worked in other states. And especially once the students kind of identify their long-term goals or where they're looking at, I know I personally will bring in some more material to make sure that the state that they want to ultimately reside in, that maybe we can just touch on it a bit in the class. So it's not state specific, and it's not and it can be transferred because the knowledge is very much a baseline for the industry.
Okay. We have an anonymous attendee who is asking, is this the right course for to take for someone wanting to be a CPC?
Wish they would tell me what CPC is.
Certified CPC, Certified Professional Coder.
Oh, there's my medical records girl.
So we're touching a lot on ICD-10 here, but it definitely gives you the fundamental knowledge. The medical terminology will help you prepare for the CPC exam. I would definitely jump in for a start, and then of course we can guide you from there.
Okay.
So the only thing I would add to that, if I might, is that we've only got 3 class meetings for coding for our diagnostic and 3 for CPT. Those that are going to ultimately become coders, we're probably going to help you tie into a program that's going to have a bit more in-depth of knowledge. We kind of do a little bit quicker approach on that because we're more focused on getting the bills out. But you're absolutely correct, Tamara, is that it is going to give you an understanding. And it may, what we find sometimes is when you take the course is when you don't know if you like coding. If you spend a few Saturdays doing coding and you don't like it, then maybe you'll stop yourself from taking that class. Or if you absolutely love it, then you just confirm that. So it is a win-win for you.
Okay, and probably tied into this, because we got a question that came in before the webinar began that says, does the program prepare students to sit for the certification exam? Example, Certified Professional Coder and Biller, CPB. I think that's the right initial.
Yeah, so, I think it's probably not going to be quite the level of efforts that you're going to need to actually pass that level of course. But again, it's going to not conflict with that experience. It's more another opportunity for some more practice. So let's say maybe a year ago you started the program, but you never sat for the test. We'd be a good refresher course for you to just get back in the groove for practicing as you just get ready to take the exam. So again, the emphasis is primarily for getting the bills and understanding how those work. but it doesn't mean that it isn't a good stepping stone for you if you're looking at coding to be your ultimate objective.
Okay. Another question we have just came in from Anonymous. It says, what is the salary range for becoming a biller and coder? And a lot of jobs are looking for CPC for that certification.
So one of the things that I'm going to tell you is that if you're working for billing coding, you're probably talking about a small practice, because in the larger practices, those are usually different people. Coders are not necessarily billers, are not normally collectors, because the bigger the practice, the more complex it is. So chances are you're going to be working in different areas, and you'll have to make a decision. If you're working for the smaller practices where you kind of, as I say, become the jack of all trades, you're probably looking significantly above California minimum wage. But I'm going to also tell you that geographically, there are needs that put you in positions where the salaries are significantly higher. I actually indicated that I work up in Lake Tahoe. That's a little tiny hospital, even though we're very busy. It's surprising how higher the salaries are, because it's hard to recruit when there's not a lot of folks to recruit from. So supply and demand. If you live in urban Los Angeles, you're probably going to be with a lot more folks around, easier to fill positions. So sometimes being creative and being willing to move will help drive that income. But I've got folks that start in the low to mid 20s with minimal experience, simply because supply and demand has pushed salaries into those higher numbers, even without the experience. The higher the experience, obviously, the higher in dollar you can command.
Okay. And kind of along those lines, so you're saying based on the supply and demand, is this an industry where people can find themselves working remotely? And does that support, I know our program supports remote study and learning. So would that then be able to naturally take them into potential remote positions?
There are several opportunities for remote. Some of our smaller organizations did not have the infrastructure. Like my organization did not support a lot of remote for our billers, and for some of our customer service, our coders are 100% remote. But again, they're different people. Our coders are all across the United States. We use an outside company for that. So there are opportunities. There are part of the legislation we talked about for privacy and in making sure we're cyber securing our data so that somebody doesn't get hacked. All of those things will come into play. We touch on those a little bit in the course as to how to protect. We also talk a little bit about whether you're going to work for somebody or whether you're going to ultimately have your own business, because I know that's always a desire for a lot of folks. And there's some pros and cons, and some of it may be that you just need a little more experience, where if that's your ultimate goal, you'll be successful. But we do talk about how to get to not just working for somebody, but ultimately possibly how to do this on your own. Okay.
And with that, those opportunities that are available, Erica asks, what is the highest position being in this field? What is the highest level that you can attain?
So usually it's going to be the manager or director of the office. And if it's a really large multi-state practice, it could even end up with a title that ends up with a VP type title.
Okay.
I'm a director over what we call the entire revenue cycle, which means I work with the Tamaras of the world, the HIM. I work with our front end folks. I work with our billing office. I work with our accounting office. So I'm responsible for all of those various areas, not just how to do billing.
Okay. And I'm seeing things like medical records and health information specialists. That sounds like that's in the title realm. Tamara, give us a little feedback on that.
Yeah, so medical records, health information management essentially is medical records. And usually in medical records, we focus more so on the chart completion and as well as coding. So it's a difference between the billing piece of it and the coding piece. So you have billers in the finance department, you have the medical records department doing more of the coding operations of it. So that's where your CPCs and your, your CCSs and your coding credentials are, you'll see that most organizations are looking to have those individuals with credentials to actually do the coding in the medical records department.
That's excellent. Okay, thank you for that clarification too.
So I have
ahead,
one
Vicki.
more thing to add to that is one of the areas under Tamara is our release of information staff. So our billing office will frequently be requested by the insurance to provide backup documents to prove that the account was legit. So we have release of information. It's a kind of a clerical support that has to know enough about the medical records and the coding that maybe wasn't a coder, but who can legally know to release information. So when you talk about how do you get a job or where do you start, an awesome place to start in is learn how to release information, be compliant, work with patients when they want their records, and then at the same time, learn more about the business and learn a bit more about how to get into other fields as you grow.
Another question we have from an anonymous attendee says, are books provided for each class or do we need to purchase books separately?
So there is a workbook and a textbook that is primarily used for all the courses. It is the insurance handbook. We're currently, I think, on the 16th edition of it, but it's used for most of the courses. But we do also require a medical terminology. There's a short course book that we're utilizing. And then the coding books are extra because you have to be able to have the reference material. So there's essentially the textbooks for all the courses with the workbook, and then the coding books will be used for the CPT. And they are can be purchased unless you happen to be working in the industry and you're able to borrow the ones from your office. They're not something that you're going to highlight or scribble in, but if you've got access to them from someone. I have had students in the past on some of the books, especially the reference materials. There's some lending libraries through various sources, and they've managed to pull the books over that way. So
Okay.
the textbook is probably the one we recommend that you buy, especially the workbook, because you will be answering questions and needing to be able to jot down answers.
Okay. One last question would be, how do you find, to Vicki and Tamara as well, sorry, how would you find yourselves keeping up to date or pushing yourselves to be at the cutting edge of this medical insurance billing industry? How do you stay up to date?
So I stay up to date by being involved with many of those organizations that were on, where we talked about the Healthcare Financial Management Association. And I think for Tamara, it's probably a HIPPA. She's on the coding side of the business. So we find our niche in that. It's also getting signed up with all of the payers. They have the ability to send updates to providers that don't cost anything. So we talk about how to get access to websites and what websites you should be putting yourself on their subscription services, and they'll send your updates on a regular basis. Not to mention, besides that, it's all about attending conferences, seminars, and webinars that are out there by different types of groups out there, whether it's the American Medical Association or California Hospital Association or other organizations in various parts of the country. So you do have to do, it is a conscious effort to stay current. It is definitely, especially when COVID hit in March of 2020, I think within about a week, I had about 950 pages from the federal government that I was asked by my chief financial officer to figure out what we needed to do to be compliant. Some light bedtime reading. But that's kind of what we have to do at times, is that, when stuff kind of happens, and with the COVID and all of the federal public health emergencies, every time that emergency comes out, there's going to be rules. The federal government, every time the law changes, there's rules. So we have to get involved with reading all those and keeping up with Medicare, CMS, Medi-Cal, et cetera.
Right. I agree. Once you go through the course and you get your credentials, it's a requirement to continue your education units, to keep your CPC or RHIA, RHC, whatever credential you have through the organizations that accredit you for the most part, that's providing your certificate or your credential. But the most important thing is to join your local chapters. They're out there. AHIMA has a California Health Information Management Association, AAPC, they have local chapters in your area, and they're holding webinars and seminars, you know, usually free of charge, or there may be some cost. But if you're actively pursuing a career in this industry, I encourage you and recommend you to join one of the local chapters to stay current. And keep your continuing education units up to date. So you have to continue, and that's maybe 1 or 2 hours here and there, just learning about the industry in order to stay current.
Excellent, excellent information. Thank you for sharing that, ladies. I have one final question from Erica, who asks, is it recommended to use a Mac or a PC when completing homework assignments or connecting? Do you guys have any software specific requirements for your students?
I don't think there's a requirement per se, because most of the textbooks are available through an online portal, which I think as long as you've got internet access, I would recommend that you work the program at least on a tablet or a PC, not your phone. It's just very hard to read the slides and the materials when you're looking at something so tiny. But I don't think that we've got anything that's Mac or PC driven. I think it's more about having the link through the textbook. One of the things that the textbook does have is a fair amount of resource material available through the link for the textbook. So when you're a student, you register for our course, you give you a link for the textbook through us going through the university. And that opens up a whole lot of reference materials besides the ones that you're given by myself and by Tamara as a portion of the class.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe that we have covered all the questions that came in. And I want to thank you both for participating in the Q&A, for providing this wealth of information. And I'm going to go ahead and jump back into our slide presentation. So at this point, we've covered a great deal of information, but just in case anyone missed anything, please feel free to email us or call us during our business hours, again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And call us, email us at learn@csudh.edu or call our 310-243-2075. That's our marketing line if you have any specific additional questions about the program. When you're ready to register and you're ready to go ahead and take those next steps, our registration office will be standing by to take your registrations via phone at 310-243-3741, and that's option number 1, the very first option. But remember, again, if you have recently taken a course at Dominguez Hills, simply log into your My CSUDH portal to register, and you can go from there, and your courses are online. So we would like to conclude our medical insurance billing certificate program information session. I want to thank you for joining us today. Again, please feel free to connect with us on our website, via social media, on our Facebook page and LinkedIn group. And remember to register early to get your spot in your preferred classes. We'd love to get your feedback on today's session as well. So please let us know how we can improve the quality of information provided by visiting bit.ly/CSUDH-webinar-feedback. The survey will also be available via a follow-up email to attendees. Now, we'll stay in the session for a few more minutes to give everyone a moment to jot down last-minute notes and download the NBMB info kit from the chat panel. The recording for this session will be online shortly on our website and via our LinkedIn's are linked in our social media as well. When you're ready to leave, simply click the red leave button in the corner of your screen. Once again, thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in class. Take care, everybody.